it's just not going anywhere. I would have thought that the dollar yen would be weakening, but I guess the difficult thing with this is that the dollar's also a bit of a safe haven, isn't it? Um,
Yes, exactly.
so it might not be the best currency pair to try and trade. I would have thought maybe the euro yen would have been better. Um, but gold is pumping and pumping
I
higher
would
and
have thought
higher.
Aussie yen, mate. Yeah,
Yeah,
gold.
Aussie yen. Yeah, how did that go? Aussie yen. Yeah, see, that's recovered as well. That's had a pretty good time of it, isn't it? I mean, we seem to be sort of back in risk on. Actually, you know what? Before we just started on YouTube, and before good morning, everyone. By the way, I have to shoot out in a little while, but I just want to just quickly discuss just a little bit with the FTSE, and then I'll pass it to you, mate.
Right, mate, you go hard.
Okay, so but this is what we've had yesterday with the FTSE gap to the downside, a little bit of volatility. It didn't really break, well, it didn't break down at all, actually. It managed to hold and has pushed itself higher. Now, I have to say, really, risk on is back on the table for right now, but I'd like it down at this daily pivot. So I wouldn't like to trade it down to the daily pivot. I wouldn't like to take a short to the daily pivot. I think it's got a good shout to get there because it's not, the news is still kind of filtering through. So it might not be the most positive, straight away. And we are at a level of resistance here, particularly with this gap. But because I'm not really expecting a strong trend to the downside, the daily pivot might just not get seen. But I think on a day like today, it's got a greater likelihood because there is just a little bit of flip flopping and there's no positive news. It's more of a counter reaction to the negativity that we saw yesterday with Apple. So what I'd like to see is it come down
Why?
to the
Why is the question?
why is what the counter reaction.
Yes.
Well, I guess,
In other words, the market's saying to us, well, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Apple, do
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess that ultimately I can't see this Corona situation not taking a bit of a deeper hold. But there's so much positivity. When we look at the global markets, specifically the US markets, there's been so much positivity driving the markets to the upside that I suppose there's still going to be plenty of people that are quite happy to buy even the most shallowest of dips, no matter
So it would
what the
appear.
news. Yeah, and it's a very dangerous position to be in, but again, there's a gap with the Dow, and I wonder whether closing this gap might actually start to see some significant downside. So I'm still facing down, if I'm honest. I don't see anything hugely positive, coming out of this. Yes, you could buy the dip, but regardless of whether we think that it's a buying opportunity, I just don't think it's come down enough for it to be a valued buying opportunity, and that's what this is about, because those earnings are going to get affected. Apple have iPhones manufactured in China, and they also sell in China. So if their supply chain is getting some problems, then you have to say, some of the smaller companies are also going to suffer. So the move to the upside at this particular juncture seems to be a little bit expensive to me. I would see this market coming down a lot more significantly than where it is now, before popping back up again. So, yes, we need to look for upside ultimately, but I think there's still a little bit of dragging down that could happen. S&P, similar kind of scenario where it hasn't yet closed the gap, and maybe closing the gap gives the traders the green light to go to the downside. Nasdaq, I think, is the most interesting because the Nasdaq is almost attempting to make fresh highs. It's not that far away. It's already closed its gap, and it's continuing to move up. So considering that Apple is that tech stock, this one is probably the most surprising when it comes down to price action. But it is the most bulletproof of all global markets that I've certainly got on my terminal anyway. Kakaron, a similar scenario as well, pushing again to the upside, not finding it too difficult to use the negativity as a buying opportunity. This is the China market. This is the German market, again floating around in this area here, and finally the Nikkei, which is struggling a little bit more. GDP weak out of Japan probably is putting pay to any decent moves in the Nikkei. But my personal stance is that we probably are risk on today. Certainly for the opening gambit anyway. Or certainly for the period of the day, but I'd just like to see a little bit of downside to come into play, just so we can take advantage of maybe getting on board to the upside. But I'm not interested here. I think it's even though it might move straight to the upside. I think this weekly pivot is just a little bit close, and that probably is the next port of call for some downside. So based on a weak foundation for me, mate. So I think I'm going to stay out the market until we see this daily pivot, possibly the weekly pivot. We'll look for downside, but certainly I think for right now we're risk on. So let's see if we get the daily pivot for a trend to the upside, and I will pass it to you for some pound trading.
Happy days. Yeah, pound let us down yesterday with a bit of a whipsaw-y type scenario, and hopefully we can get that back with a bit of interest today. That would be nice.
Yeah, pound's got some CPI figures later on, which could create some opportunity, but I know that's not really a factor when it comes down to the strategy. But
well, not yet.
Aware. Not yet.
May well be.
Yeah,
may well be after tomorrow. We've got it's the end of the test tomorrow, so we'll see how we go. You'll have to stop sharing, mate.
No problem, mate. No problem. I mean, to be honest, this is another reason that the FTSE is a bit of a concern for me when it comes down to a trade early doors. I'd quite like a trade to come into play after that news and data is released, but not yet.
Oakley dokley. All right, let's go and see what we can do. I've already placed the long whilst you were having a little chat there.
Great stuff. And
the short we'll get into now. Actually, I've got multiple trades on pound US dollar because I'm a bull. Let's go through this one though. It is entry at 1.2980. 1.2980 is the short order, and of course the stop loss. Did I say 1.2980? Yep. And the stop loss will be at 1.3026. Okay, so there's our short, and the long is, of course, the reverse of that. At 1.3026 is the entry, and 1.2980 is the stop loss. Now, I guess while I'm here, I might as well show you the orders that I've got in the market, and just get rid of the EA because that confuses everything. There we go. So I've got a three-stage trade here, and the first entry is already triggered, and it's trading this bar here, which is a higher low or right shoulder, whichever way you want to look at it. But once we come into or back into a range, that's my MO. I like to trade that higher low, and there's the order there. We have been triggered into that. My first take profit level is not where you see that line. That must be the entry for, yes, it is the entry for the breakout trade. My first take profit is here, pretty much at the confluence of trade line and high of that bar there, which was a 4-hour bar yesterday. My second entry is pretty much bang on that level, and I'll be taking profit there on that entry, and all targets will be taking the majority of the position off just underneath the monthly pivot there. We'll leave something open just in case we shoot through here and go long. So I've got a few positions here on pound US dollar at the moment. And we have been triggered into the first one at the lowest risk, of course. The first entry is always going to be the lowest risk that we take. So that's pound US dollar. Why am I so bullish? Well, I wouldn't say I'm so bullish, but what I would say is, and we spoke about this one yesterday, it's exactly the same, nothing's changed. We have broken the strong resistance and support level, and it is a strong level, but it failed. Well, it looks like it failed because we came straight back above it and retested it, and that's the basis for this trade. And I'm thinking that here is an obvious target, which is where we've got our majority of get out positions, and we'll give it a chance to go through to here as well with a small portion of the position, if we're so fortunate enough, of course, to get up to here. That would be good. So that's pretty much the pound. I don't see any reason to change that attitude just now. Of course, that news upcoming may give us a little bit of a ride either way. Hopefully, if it goes south, it doesn't take our stops, and we do manage to get these targets that I spoke about earlier. So that's really the pound. Let's start with the euro on the rest of them. Although, before we do that, we spoke yesterday. I don't trade the first candle of the session, guys, so there's no point rushing into this, going through the pairs. What I am going to do, though, Ash and I, and I'm not sure when this starts, but we have come up with a new way to get you guys the information that that
I think it starts today,
daily.
mate.
Really?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you guys anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly what to expect. I'm only going to trade the majors in this show live in front of you because we'd be here for hours if I went through every analysis that I do every single day. So we're just going to concentrate on the 7 major pairs in this program. But outside of that, I do the minors as well. And I do the minors in a spreadsheet format. And I'm just going to share that with you now.
Hey, Lewis, ALT.
Where are we? Okay. So I'll show you yesterday's first. And this will be the format ongoing. For me anyway. Ash is going to be a little bit different. I do mine before London session every day, and it'd be really cool if I could actually share here. But it looks like the world is against me today in terms of share abilities. Why is it so? There we go. What I'm seeking to share is that one, I believe, on screen number 2. And hopefully it'll come up for you guys in a minute. So this is going to be the format that we use. You guys will be able to take advantage of this. I think there's a subscription coming up for you. This is yesterday's, and yesterday's tells us that I was looking to trade Aussie Kiwi short, and I actually put an order in there for you guys. If you want to follow those, then happy days. That didn't trigger, didn't happen. Aussie Swiss short await retrace. That I'm not sure about the retrace, but Aussie Swiss went short yesterday, as did Aussie Yen, and Pound Aussie just shot through as well. So all of those came to fruition basically, apart from the trade that I gave you, which didn't trigger. So that's pretty much exactly the format that I'll be giving in this preview of exactly what I'll be looking for throughout the day. On a daily basis, that will be posted in a place that you guys will be able to gain access to. I'm not sure of the details of that just yet, but that will be sent out to everybody and be put somewhere in the YouTube channel as well, so you'll be able to access that as you see fit. No pressure, of course. There's no need to do that if you don't find any value in it. But Ash will be doing his version of this after we close the UK session. So he'll be telling you what he's looking for after, and probably going into the US session
Yeah, that's more
Yeah,
what it is. I think it's just,
yeah,
just to make sure that the guys have got a handle on what I would do in the afternoon, because the day changes, doesn't it? That's the thing. The FTSE and the
yep,
US session are almost like two separate days at times. So yeah, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what I'll be doing in the afternoon.
yep. This will be updated also if I change tack during the day. So that will also be there. So today, here's your free look at today, or not. Don't you love technology? Let me go to here. This is the folder that you guys will be going into, by the way. Today's version, hopefully, will fill this chart in just a tick. There you go. So I've already told you what I'm going to do, and that's the first order that I placed. If you wanted to follow that one, that is already in the market and running. They're the other two that I'm looking at today, and US dollar CAD in particular, I think is a good possibility if it were to break the low and retest it at around about the 132.30 mark. So that is today's version of what I call slingshot hotspots. And as I say, you'll be given information about that. That will be posted every single day that we trade. Won't be doing one on Friday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there will be one in there from me. And as I said, Ash will be doing his after the show. Mate, I don't know if, and that's a question without notice, have you got yours done today, or you haven't done one yet?
No, not yet, mate. No,
Probably haven't done one yet. No.
it's the I like to effectively get
Wait and
through
see what happens.
get through the show, because really,
Mm.
so while we're in the show, we can kind of express the ideas that we've got. And to be honest, after the first hour, and certainly the first hour and a half, because we've got specific data today, that will give me a better handle on the way that I will treat the afternoon. I haven't at this stage really got a firm decision, except for, as I said, I'm still quite keen on looking at a very short-term bounce to the upside from the daily pivot on the futures charts, which I was just discussing, which is around about 20 pips, maybe 30 pips below where we are now on the FTSE 100. But that can change, and I'd probably want to wait until 9:30 UK time, about an hour and 20 minutes before I solidify the approach, because after that I'll have a better handle on whether it's going to be something that would be something that would possibly continue to a specific part of the day, or whether we might get something which is a little bit more choppy and rangy, or whether it could reverse altogether. So it's a bit early
Yep.
for me to say at this stage. We are at a level of resistance, and there's a chance that we could fail here. But really, that failure to me looks like a potential short-term buying opportunity more than anything else. But given what's going on, if this was to burst to the upside, I'd probably be a lot keener on trying to get the short in, because I am looking for short, but just not here. I'm just looking for the market to come down and come back up and fail here again, which would trigger me in a short, or pop up and see if it starts to fail at higher levels, which will also trigger me into a short. So it's got a little bit of unfolding to do. That the picture's not 100% clear for me just yet. And actually, we've seen some pretty rangy price action even in these early stages. We're only less than 15 minutes into trade, but we haven't really moved price. And that isn't always the case, but it is indicative of a market which is just on wait and see mode. So I guess while the market's on wait and see mode, then to a greater and lesser degree, I'm kind of in the same boat.
You'll follow suit. I think with your daily 2 minute brief, you've kind of felt a little bit. I don't know that the guys have been left out at times of the end of your trades, or indeed the new trades, because you tend to manage your trades very, very closely,
Yes.
and it's quite difficult to say at this time of day, look, here's exactly what I'm going to do, because you really don't know to
No,
a large
exactly.
degree what you're going to do.
Exactly. It is quite dependent on how how things unfold during the day.
Yep.
I do take longer term views on things, but I also do react fairly fast if the shorter term picture changes, just to make sure that if I'm in the wrong direction, if my overall bias is, let's say, short, but the timing isn't quite right, then I can react just to get a better price later on down the line. StarMax, is that StarMax Lord? Yeah, StarMax Lord Gaming. You should be getting a screen. I've got a screen I'm watching from my
should have
computer.
my pound US dollar 1 hour chart.
Yeah, so I would suggest maybe logging out and logging back in again and seeing if that fixes the issue. If anybody else has got the same issue with not getting a screen, then that would change. Certainly what we might need to do our end, but I don't think that's the case. So just maybe log out and log in again, buddy, and we'll see if you manage to get some visuals from that way. I'm not showing my FTSE chart at the minute. I mean, I can do, but there's literally nothing going on. We as I say, we're 15 minutes in, and from the open we have moved 3 pips. So we are looking for a lot more movement than that. But yeah, let's get to some of this news and data, mate, because this is obviously an important aspect of what we're going to be looking at today.
Yes, absolutely. We've already had, pardon me, of course. I'm not sure why that isn't showing. I'll just refresh my chart and see how the Aussie wage price index came out. Bang on target, bang on previous. So no reaction there expected. CPI figures, as we've already flagged, coming out in an hour and 15 minutes from now.
Yeah, I wonder what that's going to show us, the CPI figures. I wonder whether it might also be a bit of a damp squib and kind of an arbitrary number.
Trending, actually.
It's funny, isn't it? Because when it comes down to it, they're kind of creeping down a little bit more, aren't they? But not too far away from the 2% target that the central banks so love. And obviously, if it gets to 2% or let's say 2.1%, then that would probably have a pretty significant move on the pound to the upside for a period. Not to say that it's going to start trending to the upside, but it will certainly spike up if we get a number which is up and around the 2% mark. Core CPIs, I don't, all those other numbers won't have quite the same impact with it, but that CPI data is important.
Yeah, CAD later as well. As I said, I'm bearish dollar CAD, so a little bit bullish on the CAD. I think oil looks like and I don't have an oil chart, but
decent pop, mate.
Sorry.
Decent pop in oil, 52.7 now it's the WTI. Yeah, decent pop to the upside.
Yeah, there's a nice bar there on the daily yesterday that looked particularly positive, in my humble opinion anyway. So that looks like it might be positive for the CAD. The CPI number, of course, will, if it hits or beats the 0.2%, which is the month-on-month figure, of course, it would be positive, I would think, for the CAD. We'll see, and of course, therefore, negative for US dollar CAD. FOMC minutes coming out later, of course. Actually, I'm not sure how many Fed people have spoken since the Fed met, and that's normally my gauge as to whether this will make a difference or not, because generally, if they've been, Fed speaker X says this, Fed speaker Y says this after the actual Fed meeting, then there's really not too much left to disclose. But if those minutes are, well, either bearish or, well, let's say hawkish or dovish, not bearish or bullish, but if they are either way, outside of what we already know, then you could expect some movement in the market without doubt. I'll not be in front of the charts at that time, I can assure you. I'll be in the Sandman's hands, I hope.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So that kind of wraps up today for me.
I think considering what we had last time from Jerome Powell and the interview that he effectively had, it's probably a bad term to call it an interview, but the
Yeah, testimonies.
the testimony, yeah, in front of the Senate. I just think that's going to be another boring account of a whole bunch of nothing. To be quite honest,
Yeah,
mate.
it's hard to imagine that there'll be anything new in that.
Yeah, yeah, I'd be surprised. So yeah, there's not a whole bunch really. I mean, I think that that CPI data might do something, but the other thing is Wednesday, isn't it? And I guess it's that weird kind of strange time in the week where no true positions are being taken. It's unless there's something significant that's going to happen, and looking at that, it doesn't look like there's anything that significant. I think we might even get moves in the opposite direction, just like we're seeing with the Dow and the S&P and the FTSE to a degree, where they're easing back up again. But I wonder when it starts to really get to the business end of the week, then that's when we start to reverse all moves to the upside. It looks to me like a bit of a relief is going on at the minute, but the fact that it's Wednesday could be one of those things that you kind of go, shall we bother today? Is it better just to let the market do its thing today until we get a clearer picture and a clearer entry and a clearer price tomorrow? And that's kind of the way I'm kind of headed right now. I've got to be honest, mate.
Yeah, I'm okay today. I'm pretty keen on the pound, but of course these numbers coming out are going to probably flag how I fare today. I would imagine we shall see. That's kind of why I've gone in light and in 3 separate positions on the pound.
Yeah, I think always wise.
Not certain what's going to happen with these numbers. But I am very interested, and before we meet tomorrow, this little section here will have a big effect, I think, on the Aussie. We had Philip Lowe saying after the meeting last month that he would be watching this number very, very closely. And the day, I think it was the day after the meeting, would that be right? Can't quite remember. But anyway, he'd be watching this number very, very closely. If it does creep up, as they're anticipating that it might, the unemployment rate I'm talking about, you may well see pressure on the RBA to reduce interest rates further in Australia. That's the number that I'll be watching very, very closely tomorrow, because if it is a miss, so in other words, if it's higher than 5.1, I think you're going to see an Aussie drop very, very quickly, because that will put pressure on the RBA. We shall see. So just watch that one tomorrow, guys.
Are we kind of long-term short Aussie anyway, mate? Is that our view?
Well, absolutely. I'm a massive bear, the Aussie. Massive.
Right.
I've still got an Aussie yen order on the weekly chart that hasn't triggered yet. Maybe tomorrow will be the day. I don't know. We shall see. But I'm still keen on a lot of these Aussie pairs. And interestingly, the Aussie has rallied in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 6 sessions on the 4-hour chart here. So 5/6 of one day has all been up for the Aussie. Got absolutely no idea why, but the good part about that is, I suppose, eventually we'll get a decent price if it sets up. Maybe that comes off the weekly pivot today. Maybe it comes off the trade line. As always, I'll be looking for a resistance break, and then that break to be proven false. If it comes up here, happy days. That's probably the best thing I could hope for, I think. The flip side of that, of course, is there is, a definite base here. There's no question about that. And if it were to form, I guess, another higher low, so if it broke the weekly pivot, came back and couldn't get below it, gee, that's another bullish signal from a technical perspective. Whether I'm willing to take that on, of course, is entirely another story. I said it yesterday. I think it was on a 30-minute chart later in the day. So I was talking to the guys in the late session for me, and there was the absolute hint. Can't quite see it now. There it is there, actually. Yeah. We had a trend line coming up through here. Let me go a little bit wider.
Yeah, we're only seeing your Forex calendar at the minute, mate.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, okay, I'll change. There we go. That should be back on the Aussie. So yesterday we had in this trend line coming. Yeah, it was this trend line coming up through here. And I was saying to the guys, this is setting up as a beautiful potential false break of this support trade line. And it actually did set up, being there. So there's your entry right there. And you would have got, for a risk of, you probably would have got 2 or 3 to 1 out of that, by the look of it. Very small candle to trade, of course, and it's not my thing. 5 pips into, it's only 2 to 1. But if you'd hung on, you might have got a bit more. It just set up that way. And I said to the guys, there's no way I can trade this. I don't think, because it's, although technically, you know, you've got every right to do so, untested daily pivot. Well, I tend to trade towards that if that's the case. Today we've got a broken and retested daily pivot. It really does look like we're on the way to the weekly pivot, I'd have to say. And again, once again, very, very tough to trade Aussie. It was actually Aussie Swissy setup, not Aussie US dollar, as I recall. So yeah, Aussie mate's still absolute bear, but finding a way in here has proven very, very difficult. And I guess that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, it's coming off the bottom every single time it goes there. Your only real opportunity to make any money was, I guess, here, and you had to get in pretty much on close of US session, opening of Kiwis. Tough to do. Most of us are sound asleep at that time of day. But there you go. That was the way in, I guess. Hopefully, with a weekly pivot test, and maybe a confluence over here somewhere. Yeah, we might have to wait a bit for that to happen, but that looks like a nice area to look for short for me. We shall see. Dollar yen, we spoke about that earlier. The trade that I've been in for over a month now. Again, the stop loss is coming under threat. No harm, because we're trading this for free, of course, and we've banked and can only win. But you wouldn't like to see us stop hit anyway. I'd like to see it obviously come back down to the bottom of this channel and shoot through. If I'm not in this trade, then what do I do? Well, I've got a potential double top sitting here right now, and if that's the case, I'll be looking for a lower high in this area here, and then potentially trading back short. Smaller time frames, yeah. Look, there's a big gap between these tests, and I don't normally like that, but if we were to come back underneath here after breaking it, then that would be a potential short. On the smaller time frames, the 30-minute in particular, there's not a lot happening. I can't join anything up here, so there's no confluence. So it's 4 hour or greater, I think, for US dollar yen. US dollar Swissy, interesting bar put in there yesterday. Not sure what that was all about, as I was asleep at the time, of course. Yeah, it would have to get below the daily pivot and come back and retest it before I got interested, I think. But it is showing signs of deterioration of this bullish outlook. But yeah, I don't see an opportunity there for me at the moment. Kiwi US dollar, similar to the Aussie in many ways, of course, has put in what is clearly a double bottom sitting here. The way I would like to see this trade, and I know the guys who live in New Zealand are still bullish this in a longer term scenario, but we've got to get rid of a fair bit of doubt in the world at the moment, I think, before we can get bullish on these Kiwi and Aussie dollars, I think. So I wouldn't be looking really to trade this long. However, that said, if price were to get up to the weekly pivot and come back and give us a higher low, maybe retesting the daily pivot, you've got to be thinking this can absolutely go long. Trading that. Probably just what I said. Price gets up to here and comes back and gives us a higher low, you've probably got a right to believe that it can go maybe up and retest these highs. Not a great fan, though, at this point in time. And finally, the one that I do like today, US dollar CAD. One of my group, and gee whiz, I hope he put his stop where I asked him to, was in this ages ago, earlier in the week, I'm not sure. He was trading on the daily chart. Yeah, he was trading this daily chart as a false break, which is, beautiful setup. And I think I went through this yesterday. Back underneath and retest, absolutely spot on and perfect. And we were having a conversation. I said to him, look, put your stop loss at least 5, but better still 10 pips above the weekly pivot if you're going to put, that's where I suggest you put your stop. This candle went 7.9 pips above the weekly pivot, so I'm really hoping that he put a 10 pip stop loss on that and is still in the game. And
nothing more frustrating, is there, mate?
Absolutely horrible, absolutely horrible. Because he's got everything right here. Everything is just by the book. It's as it should be. But it was the Apple News that did this, I think, Ash, because we went risk off instantly.
Yes.
And that's why that happened, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
So with that taken out, I think this has got a good show. I think it's really got a good show of getting the monthly pivot. If you're not in this trade, and this was part of my analysis this morning, break here and retest, go. I think that's the way to trade this from here. The other way to trade this from here, of course, if you get the opportunity, is if price were to come back to here and then give us a false break of that trend line and then go. But break here, retest, I think that's licensed to go short US dollar CAD. So yeah, look, as usual, mate, there's a lot to look at, but very little to do at this point in time. The market is very, very slow, and I don't see a whole lot happening at this point in time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You're
mate.
still here, but your little darling's still asleep.
Oh. She's gonna drive
What
me
drugs did you give her last night, mate?
Well, do you know what? She was up quite a few times in the night.
That'll do it.
And I prefer to let her sleep because she's not really a morning person. So if I don't let her sleep, then it won't be her that suffers. So I think I'll just leave her to it for a bit. And,
Gotcha.
Yeah, and deal with that. The thing is, the market's so quiet; it doesn't look like I'm going to be busy. So yeah, I think I won't shove her out of bed. I'll let her relax, and then I'll pop her over to nursery for a little while later on.
Yep, it is quite indeed. Pound's trying to do a little bit, but yeah, not succeeding at this point. It's just hanging around the daily pivot, waiting for that news to come out.
Yeah,
so
I think same with the FTSE,
I haven't
mate.
got much to say. More than what I've said.
Well, I think we should wrap today. I don't think there's any point in talking for the sake of talking. The FTSE 100. I will quickly show you this, but the FTSE 100 is.
Sure.
Have you now got the other screens, Mark? You should not just be seeing the Forex Factory. I'm going to show you this on a minute chart. Now,
you make me nervous.
The open was this price here, and we are currently 5 pips away. So this is what's been going on, isn't it, for the last 33 minutes. Bang, 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 bang. So nothing's going on. There's no market movement, no volatility at this particular stage. I'm just not interested, and I don't anticipate anything happening. I will change to some other longer term time frames just so you can see a little bit easier. Again, that's where we opened. This is the last 15-minute bar that we've seen, and the market is still trying to pop to the upside. And it might get to the weekly pivot, but that's 16 pips away. And as I say, I want to know what the pound news is. It might give a green light to go, but you know what? The other problem is that when we have Fed meetings, due later in the day, people wait with bated breath for that, and that means I could be waiting for near 11 hours before any real a sense of direction in this market. So I just think it might be a day that I'm just going to turn everything off, and whatever happens today, and I might come back tomorrow, because even that pound data might just cause a little bit of a spike, but then we might be right back to where we started. So I would just say be a little bit careful today, guys. I don't. We need volatility for to trade a market. Now, if you want some short-term volatility, then you don't have to look too far away from the pound and the CAD for the day. But I don't know whether it's going to define too much in the way of overall direction for those particular markets. I think it's literally just going to be popping around, and that will be it. So today to me looks like the sort of day that you should be keeping your money in your back pocket, and not putting it at risk in the market, because it will drive you to insanity. And it's these kind of really slow moving days that actually you end up losing more than when the market's really moving and it's moving against you, because at least you're wrong. With this sort of day, you just never really you can be right in an hour's time. So yeah, best to just leave it alone, I think.
Mate, happy days. I'm happy to call it quits for the day myself, and we'll have a little bit of an early mark. I don't see any questions in the chat room, so I'm more than happy to allow you to go and have a cup of tea and await your daughter's awakening.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. I need that before she gets up.
Sounds like fun.
Oh, mate, she's an absolute beauty, but she's a beast at the same time, I have to say. I think I might just. Oh, there we go. Yeah, she's got me. She's got me exactly where I need to be for her to get what she wants, and I can't seem to break the spell.
Euro dollar. Hang on, we're being asked about euro dollar. I'm not sure what. I assume our opinion on euro dollar. Didn't I?
Yeah, we're sort of based out a little bit. So let me see what we got. Euro dollar. I don't know if I can bring this up. There we go. Euro dollar. Yeah, so for me, the euro dollars, it's another one that that probably isn't wise to be touched. I mean, we've kind of got a level down here that should provide some retracement, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see euro dollar bought into. I mean, you want to wait for the Fed. That's another problem, isn't it? The Fed's going to put pay to anything that is dollar related. But after the Fed has spoken, then this is the big key, the ECB monetary policy minutes, and it would suggest that the euro probably won't go any lower before that particular meeting. So if nothing happens that's too negative for the euro and subsequently positive dollar, then yes, you could take a short term bounce to the upside. I'm not sure how high it will go. You might not get much out of it. It might be 20 pips and then done, but you might be able to get that after that, because I suspect people are probably more likely to buy into that news release than sell. But it's a tricky one. But you know what? I quite like just this as a little technical picture on the hourly. There's a little area of divergence here on the RSI. So if I was going in any direction, I'd certainly want to trade to the upside, and that's a pretty good signal, I have to say. That would have been your trade area, but you're not too far away, a couple of pips away from there. Not a bad area to try and trade at. Stops at the lows, and I guess see what you get. I don't think it's going to explode to the upside by any stretch, but it always could, and you'll be waiting for that news release tomorrow for that to happen, but likely to get trapped in there to start with.
Oh, look! The thing is with the euro, once there is a direction decided, and if it is either way from here, it will be substantial. And when I say substantial, I'm talking half hour, maybe 30 pips.
Right.
But that should be it for the day, in
Right.
my humble opinion, especially if it goes long. I can't see it getting beyond the weekly pivot, for instance.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good target area if you can get into a long. Can it bounce? Absolutely, it can bounce, and probably, as you say, Ash, it is the way to be looking. Very, very tough to be thinking short after, let me see, how many now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the last 12 days have been one direction only. And the day that it didn't go short, it was a very small-bodied spinning top. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot to be liking about going long the euro, I'm afraid. But retrace, yes, certainly. Bounce, yes, certainly.
Yeah, I'm with that for sure. Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap up. I think we've dodged a bullet getting through the show. I think we've done all right there.
Happy days.
We will be back. Yep. Sorry, mate. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, hopefully those pound things do the right thing by us today, and that's probably, apart from US dollar CAD short, if I get the right setup, that's probably about all I want to be doing.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Just to reiterate as well, StarMax. I would definitely be looking at a euro bounce if I wanted to trade the euro. It looks okay. It looks all right. Let me just see if there's a short-term signal as well. Yeah, actually, it looks okay. It looks okay. Euro doesn't look too bad at all. It might. The problem is going to be the lack of volatility. But yeah, I'd be looking for a bounce more than anything. But yeah, be careful because it may be shallow. But certainly upside rather than downside.
Trade to resistance. Get out.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, back same time tomorrow, same trade time, same trade channel, 5 to 8.
5 to 8. That's the date. Don't you guys be late. Have a good one, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.